Welcome back to my channel. My name is Peyton. This is my husband Colin joining me for today's video. Today will be episode 2 of us deconstructing the CES letter. Today we'll be going over Book of Mormon translation and the first vision. For context, we both left the Mormon Church, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, about a year ago at this point. Colin officially removed his records from the church, and I have not. I've left mine in, but I am not active, do not attend, nor do I plan to in the future. And yeah, so I will start reading the first section of the Book of Mormon translation, and we'll take pauses here and there to elaborate on some things. So this starts with some quotes. This will be by Richard Bushman. He's an LDS scholar, historian, patriarch. Oh, I guess he said this on the Fair Mormon podcast, episode 3 with Richard L. Bushman, part 1.
This is also the guy that wrote the Joseph Smith biography, Rough Stone Rolling.
Okay. I thought he sounded familiar. Okay, so it starts with, I will begin by saying that we still have pictures on our ward bulletin boards of Joseph Smith and the gold plates in front of him. That has become an irksome point, and I think it is something the church should pay attention to, because anyone who studies the history knows that that is not what happened. There's no church historian who says that is what happened, and yet it is being propagated by the church, and it feeds into the notion that the church is trying to cover up embarrassing episodes and is sort of prettifying its own history. So I think we ought to just stop that immediately. I'm not sure we need a lot of pictures in our chapels of Joseph looking into his hat, but we certainly should tell our children that is how it worked. It's weird. It's a weird picture. It implies it's like darkening a room when we show slides. It implies that there is an image appearing in that stone and the light would make it more difficult to see that image. So that implies a translation that's a reading, and so gives us a little clue about the whole translation process. It also raises the strange question, what in the world are the plates for? Why do we need them on the table if they're just wrapped up in a cloth while he looks into a seer stone? The 2 sentences prior, I was not understanding at all. I'm just going to go with the fact that it seems like he was just talking, like if it had actually just been written down, it probably would have been proofread, I don't know, to be worded differently.
Yeah.
But I'll just go with the fact that he was just freestyle
Yeah, this was
speaking
just
or something.
a clip from a podcast, basically.
But yeah, this part where it says, what in the world are the plates for? Why do we need them on the table if they're just wrapped up into a cloth while he looks into a seer stone? That was probably one of the biggest things for me when I started learning about church history and Joseph Smith. I think this was one of the biggest things, because for me, it made so many Book of Mormon stories and teachings. It invalidated a lot of things for me. The importance of the plates for generations to not need them. You know, the having to go see them and bring them back, and people are gonna steal them. I'm pretty sure there's speculation on whether or not other people outside of Joseph even saw the plates as well.
Yeah.
Like, I think the church teaches that people, signed and promised that they saw them, right?
Yeah, the testimonies of the witnesses are in the cover pages of the Book of Mormon. Mm-hmm. There's the testimony of the 3 and the testimony of the 8. So, other people claim to have seen the plates. Mm-hmm. But there's different stories about those testimonies of the witnesses and stuff. And I think at some point he covers that in here. So we may come across that. But
okay. So it goes on to say, unlike the story I've been taught in Sunday school, priesthood, general conferences, seminary, EFY, Ensigns, church history tour, missionary training center, and BYU, Joseph Smith used a rock in a hat for translating the Book of Mormon. In other words, Joseph used the same magic device, or Ouija board, that he used during his treasure hunting days. He put a rock called a peep stone in his hat and put his face in the hat to tell customers the location of buried treasure on their property. He also used this same method for translating the Book of Mormon. While the gold plates were covered, placed in another room, or even buried in the woods, the gold plates were not used for the Book of Mormon we have today. And then there's a little update on here that says, these facts are now officially confirmed in the church's December 2013 Book of Mormon translation essay. The church later admitted these facts in its October 2015 Ensign, where they include a photograph of the actual rock that Joseph Smith used to place in his hat for the Book of Mormon translation. Additional photos of the rock can be viewed on LDS.org, which is now churchofjesuschrist.org. In June 2016, President Dieter F. Uchtdorf posted on his Facebook page comparing the seer stone in the hat Book of Mormon translation to his iPhone. Fair Mormon posted new Book of Mormon translation artwork showing Joseph Smith's face in the hat. And I'm pretty sure these are links. Yeah, so if you open the PDF version of the CES letter that is in the description box below, these are all things that are linked and you can go see those sources. If you are still an active believing member who's listening to this is like, I've never heard this before, there are links through church sources that do say, coming from the church, that this is true and this is in fact how it happened. Because I know for me, when I was first learning about this stuff, I wanted to use church sources, like what's my side here having to say about our history. So that was important to me.
Yeah, and this is just showing the kind of up top is what you see on bulletin boards in churches and in the church magazines and stuff. And then down below is what it actually would have looked like.
Do you want to carry on?
Yeah, so that what the last couple of paragraphs that she read and where I'm continuing, this is all like Jeremy Runnels' direct like commentary on all this. So, since learning this disturbing new information and feeling betrayed, I have been attacked and gaslighted by revisionist Mormon apologists claiming that it is my fault and the fault of anyone else for not knowing this. Quote, the information was there all along, they say. You should have known this, they claim. Respected LDS historian and scholar Richard Bushman, as quoted above, understands the problem. Unlike these gaslighting revisionist apologists, he has compassion, understanding, and empathy for those who are shocked to learn this faith-challenging information. In 2000, two BYU religion professors, Joseph Fielding McConkie, son of Elder Bruce R. McConkie, and Craig J. Osler, wrote an essay titled The Process of Translating the Book of Mormon. They wrote, thus, everything we have in the Book of Mormon, according to Mr. Whitmer, was translated by placing the chocolate-colored stone in a hat into which Joseph would bury his head so as to close out the light. While doing so, he could see an oblong piece of parchment on which the hieroglyphics would appear, and below the ancient writing, the translation would be given in English. Joseph would then read this to Oliver Cowdery, who in turn would write it. If he did so correctly, the characters and the interpretation would disappear and be replaced by other characters with their interpretation. But then he finishes this section. How could it have been expected of me and any other member to know about and to embrace the Rock in the Hat translation when even these two faithful full-time professors of religion at BYU rejected it as a fictitious lie meant to undermine Joseph Smith and the truth claims of the Restoration? Yeah, I mean, this one is interesting. I mean, the biggest thing to me on this is if it was translated with this Rock in a Hat method, why the plates? Like, that's like the biggest question that I think Jeremy Runnels brings up in this section. Like, why did they need to exist? Why was it such a big deal in the Book of Mormon for these ancient people to be lugging these plates around and recording the history of their people and everything? And then for Joseph Smith to go back once a year, every 4 years before he could get the plates, you know, there was this big story surrounding the plates and why they were there and how Joseph got them and everything. Why all of that if they weren't used? If he was just going to put this rock in a hat to translate them, why did they need to exist in the first place? Because, like, theoretically, if they're being translated by the gift and power of God, which is the typical, like, quote that you get, why couldn't that have just been that he could have read the actual plates and had the interpretation beneath?
I had a lot of those same concerns. I mean, I still do, But this was something that was really big for me when my faith deconstruction started. And I actually have a playlist on my channel called Faith Crisis, and it's in order, part 1. I think I go all the way through part 5, and then any future videos that I've done regarding faith and the church have kind of just gone in there afterwards. But you can see where I'm still an active believing member of the church in the beginning, and as I find out this information, I ask family members about it, and you can kind of see that being a really big issue for me in those videos. But yeah, we'll move on now to the first vision section. And do you want me to start again since you were the last one to
Sure.
read?
Yeah.
Okay. So this one starts with a quote from President Gordon B. Hinckley from The Marvelous Foundation of Our Faith, which I'm guessing is a talk. So that is also linked. Our whole strength rests on the validity of that first vision. It either occurred or it did not occur. If it did not, then this work is a fraud. If it did, then it is the most important and wonderful work under the heavens. So first it's going to go over how there are 4 different accounts of the first vision that we know of. Let's see. I guess the church admits this in November 2013 First Vision Accounts essay. I actually want to click on that because I'm interested. So there's an 1832 handwritten account, 2 1835 accounts, an account in 1838, and then an account in 1842. I guess the 1838 one is the one that the church uses today.
Yeah, that's the one you'll find in the scriptures too.
This is the one that missionaries who travel around the world and teach people, they'll use this version as well. I'm going to go in and screenshot these that are on churchofjesuschrist.org, what was previously known as LDS.org. I'm going to screenshot some of those and we can put them on the screen. So if you want to pause and read them, you can do that. Or again, the link to the CES letter PDF version is in the description box below, and you can go to the First Vision section and click on all of these direct links to read them within the website as well. Do you want to take over right here?
Sure. In the only handwritten account by Joseph Smith, penned in 1832, but not publicly published until much later, describes the first vision in an unfamiliar way. And while in the attitude of calling upon the Lord in the 16th year of my age, a pillar of fire, light above the brightness of the sun at noonday, come down from above and rested upon me, and I was filled with the Spirit of God. And the Lord opened the heavens upon me, and I saw the Lord. And he spake unto me, saying, Joseph, my son, thy sins are forgiven thee. Go thy way, walk in my statutes, and keep my commandments. Behold, I am the Lord of glory. I was crucified for the world, that all those who believe on my name may have eternal life. And then he has some bullet points down below of like differences. No mention of 2 separate beings. 12 years after the vision happened is when this written account was given. Age is 15 years old. It says in quotes, the 16th year of my age, not 14 years old, which is the official account. No reference to asking the question about which church he should join, and no description of being attacked by Satan, which happens in the official version as well.
Mm-hmm.
So then there's a section titled Contradictions. In the 1832 account, Joseph wrote that before praying, he knew there was no true or living faith or denomination upon the earth as built by Jesus Christ in the New Testament. His primary purpose in going to pray was to seek forgiveness for his sins. By searching the scriptures, I found that mankind did not come unto the Lord, but that they had apostatized from the true and living faith, and there was no society or denomination that was built upon the gospel of Jesus Christ. In the official 1838 account, however, Joseph wrote, My object in going to inquire of the Lord was to know which of all the sects was right, that I might know which to join, for at this time it had never entered into my heart that all were wrong. And it just says this is in direct contradiction to his 1832 First Vision account.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this section is called Late Appearance. No one, including Joseph Smith's family members and the saints, had ever heard about the first vision from 12 to 22 years after it supposedly occurred. The first and earliest written account of the first vision in Joseph Smith's journal was 12 years after the spring of 1820. There is absolutely no record of any claimed first vision prior to this 1832 account. Despite the emphasis placed on it now, the first vision does not appear to have been widely taught to members of the church until the 1840s, more than a decade after the church was founded and 20 years after it allegedly occurred. James B. Allen, former BYU professor and assistant church historian, explains, "There is little, if any, evidence, however, that by the early 1830s, Joseph Smith was telling the story in public. At least if he were telling it, no one seemed to consider it important enough to have recorded it at the time, and no one was criticizing him for it. Not even in his own history did Joseph Smith mention being criticized in this period for telling the story of the first vision. The fact that none of the available contemporary writings about Joseph Smith in the 1830s, none of the publications of the church in that decade, and no contemporary journal or correspondence yet discovered mentions the story of the first vision is convincing evidence that at best it received only limited circulation in those early days." Which I asked my dad, and I won't clarify which one because sometimes I have two dads, so anytime I mention my dad, it could be either one of them in these videos. But I had asked him, why do you think Joseph Smith was so heavily scrutinized like in his past? Why was he martyred, and why did people hunt him down? Why was he jailed? Why did people not like him? All this stuff. And he, long story short, he sees it as because of the first vision story, and that he saw two beings, and nobody had ever reported, there was never any word at all about there being two, that he was going around and teaching this thing and building like a group of people who believed this, and they like hated him for this because it differed from their beliefs of what was real, and that there's one God, which it's also taught in the Mormon church that there's one God, by the way. That was really confusing for me growing up. It's like Heavenly Father is God, Jesus Christ is the Son of God, but then Jesus Christ is often referred to as God in the Book of Mormon many times too, and that was really confusing for me, which I think we briefly discussed that in the last video.
Yeah, we
right?
did some of the like Trinitarian stuff.
Yeah, I've heard that story many times, that Joseph Smith was hated because of his beliefs. To my knowledge, that is all talk. The only evidence that I've seen for why people hated him so much was due to his polygamy and marrying children and stuff like that, and being with multiple people. People hated him for that.
Yeah. I mean, there was probably, I've heard a few different things. Certainly the polygamy thing was an issue. The saints, when they would move to a new settlement, would often like vote as a block, so they would gain like political power really quickly in like these existing places. I think that was like another thing that caused friction. But there was a few things that I think caused him to not be well liked among other people.
Yeah, somebody commented on one of my videos recently. If I could find it, I'll put it on the screen. But it was something about, it's an active believing member of a church who says that Joseph Smith never practiced polygamy, which I'd heard that this was a thing, that there are people who didn't know that he did, or were always taught that was whatever. Yeah. I grew up being taught that he practiced polygamy, but like I've said in other videos, I thought that polygamy was very normal, and that it was more than just members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that it was just something that was normally practiced around that time culturally. Learned that was not the case, and so you just kind of like, oh, it was a direct revelation from God, this is why he was doing these things. And then when you learn more history about his life and who he was, and mind you, at this point, I was already starting to lose my faith and trust in him because of the whole gold plates not being in the room thing, the, stone lighting up in a hat kind of thing. A lot of that was really difficult for me. I wondered, why were the plates so important for all of these years? So I I was already dwindling in a lot of ways, questioning whether or not this could have even been real. That took a lot from me. And so when I'm already questioning the validity of Joseph Smith and the things that he taught and said, it was much easier for me to take in more of that historical information about his time and the people who knew him and start to raise an eyebrow at really anything he said. And during this time for me, you're losing your trust in current members of the church who are supposed to have like authority and power, be able to receive direct revelation from God and help us. Like, you were kind of losing that, and it all kind of connected for me. And I mean, there's a back and forth comment thread right now between you and this other guy. I can't remember his username, but
yeah, I mean, this is kind of like going back to what you said about like a current member had commented. But there's been a few like current members that have commented on the videos, and like as long as it's like respectful and like genuinely wanting to have a dialogue, I'm super open to that. Yeah. And I've enjoyed actually talking with different people in the comments and whatnot. So anything that you want to dive further into, like just leave a comment. I'm happy to engage and dive in deeper on some of the stuff. Because I know a lot of the stuff in the video, we kind of like read what's in the section, kind of give our little commentary, but if there's like more you want to dive into or more resources you want to point to, leave them and we'll go through that. And I'm happy to engage. Yeah,
you can check out the comments on some of our previous videos, and I actually put out shorts every day from our full-length content. So every full-length video that goes out, I make a bunch of shorts from each of those videos, and I put some out every day. And I link the full-length video and I pin them in the comments. So, and a lot of times those will get comments and traction too. I just always recommend when people have further questions after watching, a 30-second short, I'm like, go watch the whole video so you can get the context and all of that stuff. But yeah, just to point out there are plenty of people in our comments who have never been members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, people who are currently active members, people who used to be and left, who are now ex-Mormon, post-Mormon, post-Latter-day Saint, ex-Latter-day Saint, like, I don't know all the names. But really, if you want us to engage with you in the comments, we will happily do so for anyone who is either being kind or just genuinely wants to have a conversation or talk about something or say, can you elaborate on this? What do you think about this? Hey, you said this and I have a rebuttal. This is what it is. So you can completely disagree with us or agree with us. We will talk to anyone in any beliefs as long as people are being respectful. It's when people start getting disrespectful or being rude or sounding, holier than thou, that we are much more.
It's more like I just don't want to waste my time. Because like if there are other people that are being genuine, I would rather spend my time engaging with those comments. Like maybe just come in with some weird like ad hominem attack or something, then it doesn't, like, I'm not going to pay attention to it.
Like I almost regret in our last video, we responded to a bunch of comments from the comment section, and I almost regret bringing up that one guy because it's almost like he liked the attention and now comments like 3 times as much as he was before, just always tearing down my appearance.
Yeah.
And it's
weird.
Like, there's a part of me that has been so hesitant to just like block him. But then there's another part of me that also appreciates the engagement on my posts because I'm trying to monetize my channel, because we just hit 800 subscribers within the last week. So I'm really excited because I'm trying to get to, once I get 1,000, I think I either have enough watch hours at this point or I'm close to having enough watch hours where once I hit 1,000 subscribers, I should start being able to get ads on my videos and start making some money for our family, which I would love because this is a lot of fun. And it's a way I get to work and bring home income for our family and get to stay home and raise our kids. kind of trad wife style. Just kidding. Kind of sometimes. All right, do you want to read other problems or do you want me to keep going?
I can read it. Yes, the bottom section, other problems. Who appears to him? Depending upon the account, a spirit, an angel, two angels, Jesus, many angels, or the Father and the Son appear to him all over the place. The next bullet point is the dates / his ages. The 1832 account states that Joseph was 15 years old, while the other accounts state that he was 14 years old when he had the vision. The reason or motive for seeking divine help. Bible reading and conviction of sins, a revival, a desire to know if God exists, wanting to know which church to join, are not reported the same in each account. Contrary to Joseph's account, the historical record shows that there was no revival in Palmyra, New York in 1820. Fair Mormon concedes. While these revivals did not occur in Palmyra itself, their mention in the local newspaper would have given Joseph Smith the sense that there was a substantial revival activity in the region.
There was one in 1817 and there was another in 1824. There are records from his brother William Smith and his mother Lucy Mack Smith, both stating that the family joined Presbyterianism, did I say that right? After Alvin's death, 11 in November 1823, despite Joseph Smith claiming in the official 1838 account 12 that they joined in 1820, 3 years before Alvin Smith's death. Why did Joseph hold a Trinitarian view of the Godhead as shown previously from the Book of Mormon if he clearly saw that the Father and the Son were separate embodied beings in the official first vision? As with the rock in the hat story, I did not know there are multiple first vision accounts. I did not know of their contradictions, or the church members did not know about a first vision until 12 to 22 years after it supposedly happened. I was unaware of these omissions in the mission field, as I was never taught or trained in the Missionary Training Center to teach investigators these facts. So, yeah, that is a lot. I've also been told, by multiple people. There are people that I know and love who are still members of the church who do know about these things and have heard about these things. People who have listened to this information or have, gone down a rabbit hole. Some people who borderline left and decided to stay. People where they felt like it strengthened their testimony, which for me, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I'm just going to assume that most of these people are not even watching this video. But that's just laughable to me. That you could hear when you dive into polygamy and you hear that Joseph Smith married a ton of women and a 14-year-old and was sleeping with a bunch of them and all this stuff. And yes, there are court documents stating all of this. That your testimony in him is now better than it was before after receiving this information is baffling to me.
Yeah.
Say that it was in other things, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't understand because I didn't have the same experience, but I just don't get how that could even happen after receiving this information. I'm not saying that you have to leave the church after hearing this, but you can even find ways to wrap your head around it and stay in the church. I do not care. But to say that you now are stronger in it after getting this, stronger in the church after hearing that the first vision is all over the place and we kind of just pick and chose what parts of different things that we want to teach and disregarded all the other ones, that you're now stronger and you understand even more. I don't know. Do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, no. I mean, the first vision was kind of like a jarring, challenging topic for me as well, mostly because it was something that set the early, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints apart from mainstream Christianity. Joseph Smith said that he saw two separate beings. They both had bodies, and so he kind of had this different vision of who God was than mainstream Christianity had. And so to learn that narrative that you're taught is actually different than like his first handwritten account where he saw the Lord and that's all he said, that it was just the Lord. It seems like maybe he had, and along with the things we talked about in the last episode, it seems like he had a Trinitarian view of the Godhead for a while until he didn't, and they ended up revising those things. And it's like, how could that be possible if he literally saw them? So yeah, it's a challenging issue. And like, I know that some of the issues might seem nitpicky, like when he talks about one of them says he's 14, one says he's 15. It's like, well, you know, if he's writing these things down more than a decade after they happened, like you could give some grace on that. But to claim that you saw one being and then to say that you saw two, or to say you saw angels, like, if this was like the most like important, profound event, I guess, in that century, I mean, even up until now, like they talk about like how important it is. It seems weird that we would be getting very important details like that mixed up.
Yeah, it really is a lot. It's a lot. It's difficult for me to understand, but I think, I don't know, maybe as a way to explain to people who are like, why do we care about digging into all of these little details from the past? Why can't we just take like the information that's taught to us and roll with it? And for me, it's kind of like, I feel like I'm investigating like crimes or something. It feels like those just, you know, thriller mystery crime shows where people are digging up and like trying to find evidence of this and that, and what did this person say, what did they leave behind, where are all the things. And when you go in and you really investigate all of it and you get all the information, real information, court documents are very real and legal. Like, even it's hard because so many people will comment on videos saying that I'm spreading false information. And I'm like, if you believe that anything I'm talking about in any video I make is incorrect, say it in the comments. And like, if I'm wrong about something, great. Like, let's clarify in the comments. We'll talk about it in the next video. Like, hey, someone said this. And I'm like, wow, that's a really good point. Yeah. Whatever. But so far, anybody who's wanted to comment and say that we're telling lies or whatever has had nothing to back that up. Back and forth conversations in the comment section with people who are just repeating the same thing over and over that is not an explanation whatsoever, not answering direct questions, responding to questions that they came up with themselves that we did not ask. Just like nobody, like, add links in the comments, like give us sources and information, because we're giving you our sources and we're giving you our opinions on the topic. But if you believe that any of it is false, tell us in the description, give us your sources, tell us why, because we're here to learn, you know? So, and that's our biggest thing. We discovered all of this stuff through our own research. We have our opinions about it that we're sharing here on the internet, and everybody else has a right to see all the sources. If you don't like the sources that we're bringing to you, which lots of them are church sources, let's bring that, then give us yours in the comments below and we'll check them out.
Yeah, I mean, I would just pull up, if like you're gonna comment or you have like questions to clarify things, I would just pull up the CES letter, like this section that we're talking about, and look at the cross references from where we're getting a lot of that. Because if you comment saying that like we spread it wrong or whatever, and we did, we'll correct it or acknowledge it. But if not, we'll probably just link that section or something so that you can see where it came from.
Yeah, I'll have the PDF version linked in the box below, and then when our next episode for this series of Deconstructing the CES letter comes out, we'll be going over the book of Abraham. So that will be the next one. And I'm really excited about that one because I've heard so much about it, but haven't personally delved into it too much. Yeah. So I'm excited. And I don't even think I mentioned this in the beginning. Colin has read the CES letter before and I have not. I've only heard of it. and gotten like bits and pieces from other podcasts and shows. But as I go through it on camera, it's my first time reading and listening to the CES letter. Some of the information I'll know about or have heard about, but yeah, that's it for today's video. If you guys are not subscribed already, please do it. Most people who watch my videos are not subscribed. I really want to get to my first 1,000 so I can start making money for my family. And so yeah, if you like it, please subscribe, like the video, leave a comment below, engage with our family, and thank you so much for watching.
Peace.
Goodbye.